Hello beautiful people, I'm Red and this is my Holy Priest 11.1.5 raid guide. About myself, I've gotten cutting edge as a Holy Priest 5 times and as a Discipline Priest 5 times. Cutting edge means that you've killed the final boss on Mythic difficulty before the new patch comes out. And I consulted with 3 pretty important Holy Priest theory crafters before I made this guide to make sure that my information was accurate and good. So the Archon stat priority. Archon, you want to focus on crit mastery, but not at the expense of item level. So let's say you have a champion piece of gear that is crit mastery, but you have a hero track piece of gear that's haste versatility. You should wear the hero track piece of gear and focus on item level. But if all things are equal in terms of item level, you should pick the crit mastery piece of gear. As an oracle, it's basically the same stat priority for raid, but haste is a little bit more valuable, and if you ran like a heavy haste build as an oracle, you could still do really well. Like I've seen some of the top parsers run a heavy haste, heavy crit, and a heavy haste, heavy mastery build as oracle and do just as good as the other guys who are running crit mastery. A trend I did see is it looked like the top priests were running about 6 to 10% haste, and so I think that's probably pretty important as an oracle, but it's not the most important thing. All the stats on Holy are pretty equal, so you don't have to like focus super hard on your gear. Just focus on your gameplay, and that's going to make the biggest difference. For trinkets, there are 2 trinkets that are mathematical bis. First is Mr. Pick Me Up, and that's the top by a very large margin, and the second is the Eye of Kizan. If you're in a raid and it's a very short fight, like it's less than 4 minutes or something, because you're like re-killing a boss that your guild has already killed, then you might want to choose something else. Like the Mugsy Jug would be better than Eye of Kizan in that situation. Like this Eye of Kizan simulation is based on a very long fight. I think it's like a 6-minute fight that this is based on. So a 4-minute fight, I bet you Mugsy's Jug will perform better. If you're like a big fan of unused trinkets, try to use the Signet of the Priory, the House of Cards, or the Soul-Eating Ruby. And if you're doing that, you should try to macro in your unused trinket to apotheosis. And what that'll do is it'll make your apotheosis window a little bit stronger. Alternatively, if you're like running 2-minute divine hymn, or if you're using House of Cards and you're running 3-minute divine hymn, you could use the House of Cards before your divine hymn, give you a big mastery buff, and then you could use it again in between the cast of divine hymn. So our tier set bonus is called insurance. So when you heal someone, there's a chance to apply insurance to the target. And during apotheosis, this is the big thing to focus on. So during apotheosis, your holy words apply insurance to the target they hit. So what this means is you want to put insurance on your frames and then try to heal people with your holy words who don't have insurance. But let's say that there's only 1 injured person in the entire raid and it's like the tank, and they already have insurance, but you have a blue holy word up and you're in apotheosis window. It's probably better to heal the tank even though they have insurance, but you should try, but don't focus on it too hard, to cast holy words on people without insurance during apotheosis. So now we're going to talk about the talents. So the holy tree, there's a couple of flex talents. You can flex into Words of the Pious to get a little more damage on your smite and holy nova. If you're an oracle, when you cast Prayer of Mending, it's going to apply Power Word Shield to the target, which means you're going to get this 10% damage bonus. And if you really care about damage, which a lot of people do, then that might be a talent you want to take instead of Inspiration. Because Inspiration, if you're running the Prayer of Healing build, you're not going to be casting Heal and Flash Heal as often as you would in a single target build. So you could drop Inspiration for Words of the Pious. Also, you could drop the movement speed bonus. Some guilds, they don't like it when you give them random movement speed. Then at the bottom of the tree, you can drop Halo for Essence Devourer. You can drop Phantom Reach for Halo. Like, it's these 4 talents right here that you could drop and be relatively successful. I personally don't like dropping Angelic Bulwark, but a lot of holy priests in the top community have been dropping Angelic Bulwark. I like Angelic Bulwark because I would rather not die and my raid team to like me because I live. I don't care completely about my HPS. As long as I'm doing enough healing during my cooldowns, that's what I care about. So now let's talk about the priest side of the tree, or the holy side of the tree. So there's really like 2 builds you could be using. You could be using Prayer of Healing, or you could drop Prayer of Healing and pick up Chastise and maybe Imperial Blaze, or you could pick up Afterlife, you could pick up Everlasting Light, and do a more single target centric build. But Most priests, about 75% of the top ones, are using the Prayer of Healing side. One talent that you could switch is Holy Serenity for Resonant Words. So that's going to give you fewer holy words, but after you cast a holy word, it's going to make your next Prayer of Healing basically as powerful as a yellow holy word, which is Holy Word Sanctify. So after you cast that holy word, your Prayer of Healing will be empowered because you have the buff Resonant Words. So now I want to talk about a couple talents in the Oracle tree itself. So there's a talent called Waste No Time. It's really good, and it makes your next Prayer of Healing or Heal an instant cast. So let's go into the game. I'll cast a Yellow Holy Word, then I'll cast a... I just cast a Premonition of Insight, and if I cast Prayer of Healing, it's instant cast. So, like when you have Premonition of Solace, the shield isn't like super important to like min-max who are you putting the shield on. It's really good though to try to use that Premonition of Solace instant cast Prayer of Healing for an instant cast Prayer of Healing. So something you could do is like, let's say there's big damage, you go Yellow Holy Word, you're casting a couple Prayer of Healings, you could cast a Premonition of Solace and then do an extra Prayer of Healing to get an extra Prayer of Healing cast off during that damage window. Because a lot of damage windows, it's like the whole raid is going to be healed up in 4 seconds or something, right? So if you cast, you can cast like 1, 2, and if you use a Premonition, you'll get a third instant cast Holy Word off, or instant cast Prayer of Mending off before the group is all healed up by the other healers. And then Twin Sight. So before the pull, you can cast Prayer of Healing on one person and it won't be deleted at the beginning of the pull. And with Twin Sight, it's going to cast a Prayer of Healing at a second target, and that also won't be deleted at the beginning of the pull. So you can have like 14 or 16, sometimes 18 Prayer of Mendings out before the start of the pull, and what that does is it gives you 18 extra answered prayers procs before the pull even starts. So that'll help you get an extra apotheosis potentially during the fight. So that's something you should try to keep in mind. So now I want to talk about the Archon build. So as Archon, kind of what I've been seeing is people taking more of the single target builds still, and they have not been using resonant words or lasting words. What you could do if you'd rather play Archon Prayer of Healing, you could drop the Flash Heal buff, you could drop the Afterlife, you could drop Chastise, and you could put those 3 talents into Prayer of Healing. If you have an Innervate, then it's pretty good to use the Prayer of Healing build. If you don't have Innervate, you might want to focus on the single target build because it doesn't cost as much mana. Okay, so I wanted to talk about Mastery briefly. You don't need to really worry about this like a lot, but you could worry about it a little. Because you have the incentive to cast like your heal, your flash heal, your prayer of healing in order to get your holy word back, you may as well during the like 4 seconds before the damage goes out, maybe like 3 seconds before the damage goes out, you'll cast like a couple heals on the tank. And then when the damage is like 1 second away from going out, you could cast a prayer of healing, and then boom, the damage hits, you cast that prayer of healing, and then you cast a yellow holy word, and then you go into your whole prayer of healing spam, get another prayer of healing. And one thing you want to worry about is prayer circle. So when you're casting prayer of healing, your prayer circle will give you reduced mana cost, so you shouldn't really be casting prayer of healing unless you're in that prayer circle like window where you're reduced mana cost, because you will run out of mana. Like you, unless it's like a 3-minute fight and you don't really care, you should really try to do that. The next 2 spells that are core to your gameplay are your yellow Holy Word, Holy Word Sanctify, and your blue Holy Word, Holy Word Serenity. Now what those Holy Words do is they proc a spell called Divine Image. And all the builds basically are using this. And I'm going to talk about that in a little while, but I'm going to show you what it looks like. So you use a Holy Word, and then you have this little pet, and every time you cast a spell, you see the pet looked at me, I cast another spell, and you see the pet looked at me again. So what that pet is doing is he's replicating the healing of that spell. So this is what the Divine Image pet does. He casts Dazzling Lights when you use a Prayer of Healing or a Divine Hymn. That's just a 5 target heal that's on 5 people. He does Healing Light, which is a single target heal when you cast Heal or Flash Heal. Tranquil Light when you cast a Renew. And this is the rest. Blessed Light is also a 5 target heal. He also will give you increased damage on your Smite and Holy Nova. So the core healing abilities are Renew, Prayer of Mending, Flash Heal, Heal, and Power Word Shield. You want to always try to keep Prayer of Mending and Renew on cooldown, and then I'll talk about the rest of it a little later. I'm just saying that again because I want to hammer that point home. Keep Power Word Shield and Renew on cooldown. That will make you a good Holy Priest. If you just do those two things, if you heard nothing else in this video, cast Renew on cooldown, cast Power Word Shield on cooldown. So for core damage abilities, there's Holy Word Chastise, but some of the raid builds do not take that. Imperial Blaze, most of the raid builds do not take this because healer damage is not very important this patch. And then Holy Fire. So if you're in downtime and there's nothing to heal and you have like most of your holy words back, let's say you have 2 charges of holy words and you don't want to cast another holy word, you could fill with Smite. And what that's going to do is there's a spell called Surge of Light. So your healing spells and Smite have an 8% chance to make your next flash heal instant, and it costs no mana. So Smite costs no mana, and it'll make your next flash heal cost no mana, and you'll be able to use it on the move, which is pretty nice. A couple more core damage abilities. There's Divine Star and there's Halo. Divine Star is pretty solid, but if you're not using Chastise, I would recommend going with Halo. If you are using Chastise, there's a little bit more of an argument to use Divine Star. Now the reason I say that is because this spell right here, this makes your Divine Star or Halo reduce the cooldown of Chastise by 4 seconds, but if you don't have Chastise, it's doing nothing except for healing. If you want more movement, take Divine Star. If you want to like pre-cast an ability, like let's say damage is about to come out in 3 seconds, I'll cast a heal, I'll cast a Halo, then I'll go boom, Yellow Holy Word, start doing my Prayer of Healing spam, Yellow Holy Word again, Prayer of Healing spam, and I should be doing my Renew and my Renew and Prayer of Mending on cooldown as well, but I was just doing a little example there. So next is a priority damage list. It's really simple. You really just want to keep Chastise on cooldown, but you sometimes might want to save Chastise just so that you can proc your Divine Image. So sometimes I like to save Chastise right before Divine Hymn. So let's say that I'm getting ready to use Divine Hymn. I'm like, okay, it's almost time for Divine Hymn. Let's get my Prayer of Mending, my Renew on cooldown. I'll cast a Chastise, then I'll cast a Halo, then I'll go into Divine Hymn when the damage is coming out. And what that does is it's going to give you a pet. So your pet will be casting a little bit extra healing during your Divine Hymn, which is nice. It's not like super important. You don't need to worry about it that much, but it's pretty nice. Okay, so here's your spell priority as Oracle. If someone is very low, and then you should be using like a blue holy word on them, right? Or if like a bunch of people are very low, you could use your yellow holy word. And if you have 2 stacks of the holy words, then you also would want to get that on cooldown to, you know, like if everyone's very healthy, you could cast blue holy word on the tank. Now, Yellow Holy Word, I wouldn't necessarily cast it on cooldown if you have 2 stacks. You could save both of those stacks for the next big damage event. So you'll have 2 big Yellow Holy Words with all of your Prayer of Healing for that next big damage event. So don't always cast Yellow Holy Word on cooldown, but it's a pretty good practice to generally cast Blue Holy Word on cooldown. Next is keep Prayer of Mending and Renew on cooldown. And followed by that, you want to use your Heal or Prayer of Healing to get your holy words off cooldown. Oh, and one more thing, if you're like trying to conserve mana, like let's say it's an 8-minute boss fight, during downtime, instead of like you'll get your renew and your other thing on cooldown, then you can cast some heals like on the tank who's tanking actively, and cast some flash heals with the procs and cast heal to make sure that, you know, you're not going to run out of mana, but it's actively working towards getting your holy word back off cooldown, and that's pretty important. A good holy priest serenity healing will be a lot higher than a less experienced holy priest serenity healing. Okay, so cooldowns as Archon, Halo is probably your biggest cooldown. It can like do more overall healing than Divine Hymn, but Divine Hymn should be a little bit stronger per cast, especially if you have 3-minute Divine Hymn. Apotheosis, it resets the cooldown of your holy words and it makes them free. So when you're using Apotheosis, one thing you want to like take into account is right now I have 1 yellow holy word, I have 2 yellow holy words and 2 blue holy words, right? So I shouldn't cast Apotheosis right now until I cast those 2 holy words. So I'll cast like blue holy word on the tank, I'll cast yellow holy word on a group of people, then I'll cast Apotheosis. That brings them back. And I can cast blue holy word, yellow holy word, and go into like a healing rotation where I'm trying to keep Apotheosis up. And the reason I say keep apotheosis up is because there's a spell called Eternal Sanctity, and what that does is it makes your apotheosis get extended every time you cast a holy word. So I'm running low on apotheosis. I want to try to get that last holy word off, so I save the mana and extend it 1 extra second. Divine Hymn, really the only trick that I have for Divine Hymn is probably casting a Chastise before the damage. And let's say that the damage is going to get healed up in 4 seconds. So one thing you could do, you could cast like a Chastise, and then you could cast a yellow holy word, and then go into Divine Hymn. So what that would do is that would give you 2 stacks of your pet, which is called Divine Image, and that would make your holy word be ticking twice as many of those dazzling lights that we talked about a little earlier. But if it's like a 7 or 8 or 10-second damage event, you want to save that yellow holy word till after your Divine Hymn cast, because that's going to benefit from the increased healing buff from Divine Hymn. Up next, I want to talk about the Premonition cycle. So Premonition goes like this. It always starts with Insight. So like at the beginning of a pull, what you'll do is you'll use, like right when the pull happens, you can use Premonition of Insight, and then you can get 4 holy word or 4 prayer of mending casts off in a row, and that's pretty beneficial. Then there's Premonition of Piety. One thing about Premonition of Piety is it works based on your overhealing. So when you're using Premonition of Piety as a cooldown, what you want to do is you want to get Renew on yourself, probably. Then you want to, and you get your Prayer of Mending on cooldown. Then you'll cast Guardian Spirit on yourself. You will Premonition of Piety, and boom, start doing healing with the Prayer of Healing spam. And what that's doing is it's going to be healing you and also the 4 other targets. And every heal on yourself that is overhealing, it's going to be like doubling it. So it's like you're casting 2 Prayer of Healings at once when you have Premonition of Piety up. That's why you want to use Guardian Spirit for that. One thing that you can do if you only care about HPS and you're really comfortable about not dying, you can spec into Guardian Angel. And what that allows you to do is you'll be able to have Guardian Spirit for almost every single Premonition of Piety window. So some people run Perfect Vision so they can get more Prayer of Mendings out, and some people run Fate Binder. If you're running Fate Binder and you take Guardian Angel, what that's going to allow you to do is have Guardian Angel every single time that you use your Premonition of Piety. The third is Premonition of Solace in this cycle, and Premonition of Solace, like, it doesn't give the damage reduction after the shield is absorbed. So the way I would use Premonition of Solace in Raid is I would try to use it just for that instant cast Prayer of Healing. So you see this right here, waste no time. Your Prayer of Healing is instant cast, also costs reduced mana. So I have the buff on my screen right here, and I'll use an instant Prayer of Mending after I cast a Premonition of Solace. And the final Premonition is called Clairvoyance. So Clairvoyance just gives you all 3 buffs at the same time. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the Oracle cooldowns. I really kind of already talked about them a lot, but this is like a graphic to show you like what's going on with them. So again, Apotheosis resets your cooldown, and you also extend the duration of your Apotheosis when you cast a Holy Word. So you do not want to leave your Holy Words at 2 stacks during Apotheosis. You want to cast those Holy Words so that you can have, instead of a 20-second Apotheosis, you'll maybe have like a 30 or 35-second Apotheosis, depending on how many Holy Words you can cast. And you also should make sure that you're casting Chastise too, because Chastise will also extend the duration of Eternal Sanctity. We already talked about Piety, we've talked about Divine Hymn, and we've talked about Solace. Okay, so mana management. There are like 3 rules for Raid mana management that I try to follow. First is use Symbol of Hope, probably twice during the fight, but sometimes your raid leader might say, hey, I want Symbol of Hope after this damage event so that people's defensives are up for the damage event that's in 1.5 minutes. Instead of 2 minutes, their defensives will be 1.5 minutes because you just reduced them by 30 seconds. The second rule is during early prog, I don't usually follow this rule, but after I run out of mana one time, what I'll do is try to cast a mana potion in the first minute after I like run to like 80% mana. And what that allows you to do is cast a second mana potion 5 minutes later. So in like a 7-minute fight, you might be running out of mana near the 7th minute. But if you had cast a mana potion at the beginning, like 30 or 45 seconds in, then at 5 minutes and 45 seconds, you can use another mana potion and get double the mana. And then the third rule is if there's like no damage and you want to get holy cooldown reduction, do not use flash heal, just use heal. It's a longer cast, but it's benefiting by giving you holy word cooldown reduction, and it doesn't cost very much mana at all. But do not neglect using your Prayer of Mending and Renew on cooldown. That is the most important thing as a Holy Priest. Okay guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate your time. I hope you have a good day.